I trusted my best friend and my mom until I caught them together. What happened next shocked me. I never thought my family could hide secrets like this. My childhood seemed normal, almost ordinary, filled with small quarrels, laughter, and family holidays. My mom had always been kind and caring, but there were tiny moments that made me feel uneasy, little things I never paid much attention to. Until now. My best friend, Alex, had been in my life since high school. We were inseparable, playing video games, studying for exams, and sitting on park benches talking for hours. My mom had always liked him, often inviting him over for dinner, and he had become part of the family. At times, I thought maybe there was a special bond between them, but I brushed it off as them just getting along well. Everything changed one evening when I got home earlier than usual. I had planned to grab a quick snack before meeting Alex for a gaming session. The smell of food led me to the kitchen, and I wanted to surprise them, so I walked in quietly. What I saw froze me in place. My mom was sitting at the table with Alex, holding his hand. They looked so natural, so comfortable, as if nothing was wrong, but my heart sank. I felt a mixture of anger, disbelief, and betrayal. I didn't speak. I just stood there watching, trying to make sense of it. After a few seconds, they noticed me. My mom quickly let go of Alex's hand, and I saw something on her face I had never seen before, fear mixed with guilt. You're home early, she said softly. I just wanted a snack, I replied, trying to hide the tremor in my voice. Alex looked up at me, and I saw embarrassment in his eyes, but no remorse. It hurt to see my best friend, someone I trusted more than anyone, being part of this. That night, I couldn't sleep. Questions raced through my mind. How long has this been going on? Why didn't they tell me? Why Alex? And, most painfully, could I ever trust the people I loved again? For the next few days, I pretended nothing had happened. I talked to my mom, laughed with Alex, acted normal, but inside, something was breaking. Every glance between them, every smile, felt like a hidden message. I started observing them secretly, checking messages, noticing late-night calls, evenings when Alex stayed longer than usual. I wanted proof that what I saw wasn't a mistake, but everything only confirmed my fears. Then it happened. I accidentally overheard a conversation between them about the future without me. They were planning things together. Secret dinners, trips, hidden meetings. My mom, the person I trusted most, and Alex, my best friend, were planning a life without me. I realized I couldn't stay indifferent. This story wasn't just about betrayal. It was about how I handled it, how I decided what to do next. The next morning, I couldn't bring myself to speak to anyone. Every word felt heavy, as if speaking would confirm the truth I was too afraid to accept. I went about my usual routine, but my mind replayed the scene in the kitchen over and over. Every time I thought I had calmed down, the memory would hit like a punch in the chest. By evening, I realized I couldn't ignore it any longer. I needed answers. I needed to confront my mom. I waited until Alex left for the night, pretending he had plans, but I knew the timing was perfect. I knocked on my mom's bedroom door. "Mom, can we talk?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She looked up from her book, her eyes wide. "Of course. What's wrong?" she asked, masking her nervousness with her usual calm tone. I took a deep breath. "I saw you with Alex the other night. I saw you holding his hand." For a moment, she froze. I could see her lips quiver, and she looked away, unable to meet my eyes. My stomach twisted. I had hoped for denial, for some explanation, but her silence spoke volumes. "Mom, tell me the truth," I said, my voice rising despite my best efforts to stay calm. "Is there something going on between you and him?" She let out a shaky breath. I didn't want you to find out like this. I didn't know how." I felt a wave of anger, betrayal, and heartbreak crash over me. How long has this been happening?" I shouted, pacing the room. She closed her eyes, finally meeting mine. "A few months. It started. I don't know how to explain. It wasn't supposed to hurt you. I never wanted to betray you. I swear." I felt my hands shake. My best friend, my mother, both people I trusted the most, and now my world was crashing around me. And Alex, he knew. She hesitated, biting her lip. Yes, he knew. He didn't want to lie to you. But he also didn't know how to tell you. I felt sick. The idea that someone I had considered a brother, someone I had laughed and cried with, could be part of this. It was unbearable. I ran out of the room, not caring where I went. I ended up in my bedroom, slamming the door behind me. For hours, I just sat there, trying to make sense of it. Every memory I had with Alex suddenly felt tainted. The late-night talks, the laughter, the shared secrets. Were they ever real? My mom knocking on my door, apologizing, calling me her child, trying to comfort me. It all felt like a cruel joke. I decided I needed space. I couldn't stay in the house, pretending everything was normal. I packed a small bag, my laptop, some clothes, and told my mom I needed to go stay with a friend. She didn't resist, though I could see the pain in her eyes. The next few days were a blur. I stayed at a friend's house, barely sleeping, barely eating. My mind was consumed with thoughts of betrayal, trust, and revenge. I wasn't sure if I wanted to forgive or confront Alex, but I knew I couldn't ignore it. One night, I got a message from Alex. "Hey, can we talk? I feel like everything's wrong, and I don't want to lose you." I stared at the screen for a long time. Part of me wanted to block him forever, to erase him from my life completely. But another part, the part that remembered all our years together, wanted answers. I decided to meet him at the park, where we used to spend hours playing games and talking. The place felt strange now, heavy with memories that no longer felt safe. When he arrived, he looked nervous, fidgeting with his hands. I never wanted to hurt you," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "You didn't want to hurt me," I echoed, incredulous. "You're with my mom, the person I trusted most in my life. How could you think that wouldn't hurt me?" He flinched. "I didn't plan this. It just happened. We never meant for you to find out this way. I still value our friendship. I'm sorry." I shook my head, my chest tight. "Sorry doesn't fix this, Alex. You were supposed to have my back. You were supposed to be my brother. And now, I don't even know if I can look at either of you the same way again." He looked down at the ground. "I get that. I understand if you never forgive me. I wanted to be honest, finally." We sat in silence for what felt like hours. I didn't know if this was the end of our friendship, the end of my relationship with my mom, or just the beginning of something else entirely. All I knew was that my world had changed, and nothing would ever feel normal again. That night, I realized that whatever I decided next would define the rest of my life. I could either let this destroy me, or I could find a way to take control, to reclaim my sense of trust and self-worth. And I knew that the path forward would not be easy. After that confrontation at the park, I knew I couldn't just pretend everything was normal. I needed answers. I needed to know the extent of what had been going on between my mom and Alex, and what it meant for me. The next morning, I returned home cautiously. My mom was in the kitchen, making coffee, pretending as if nothing had happened. I ignored her attempts at casual conversation. Alex wasn't there yet, and I knew I needed time to think, plan, and observe before saying anything. I started by checking the small details: text, social media interactions, small patterns that I hadn't noticed before. I knew it sounded obsessive, maybe even unfair, but I had to understand the truth. Every late-night message, every vague hanging out note, suddenly, everything pointed to what I had feared. When Alex arrived, I confronted him again, this time at home, with my findings. I didn't shout. I didn't even raise my voice. I simply laid out the evidence. "I know everything. The messages, the meetings, the dinners. I know you have been seeing each other for months." He froze, then nodded. "Yes, it's true. But I never wanted you to find out like this. I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't plan any of this." I felt anger, sharp and twisting, but also confusion. I had trusted him more than anyone. And my mom, she had known how close we were. How could she betray me like this? I confronted her next, sitting her down, demanding honesty. She broke down, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't plan it this way. I never wanted to hurt you. I don't know why it happened. I feel awful. Please understand, it wasn't meant to destroy you." "Not meant to destroy me?" I echoed bitterly. "Mom, you're supposed to love me more than anyone. You're supposed to protect me. And yet here I am, feeling like the ground beneath me has disappeared." For days, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them together. Every time I thought of Alex, I remembered our years of friendship, and the betrayal felt unbearable. My mom's apologies rang hollow. I didn't know if I could ever look at either of them the same way again. But in the silence, a plan began forming. Not a plan for revenge, exactly, but a plan to reclaim some sense of control. I couldn't change what had happened, but I could decide how I would respond, how I would navigate this betrayal without losing myself. I started small. I created distance between myself and both of them. I stopped answering messages immediately. I avoided being alone in the house, and I focused on my own life, work, friends, hobbies. I needed to reestablish my boundaries before I could confront them further. Then came the hardest part, deciding whether to confront Alex one last time. He was still part of my daily life. Our mutual friends hadn't known anything, and I couldn't ignore the awkwardness that hung like a shadow. Whenever we were in the same room, I wanted him to feel the weight of what he had done, to understand how deeply he had betrayed me, but I also didn't want to become a bitter, angry person. One evening, I texted him, "We need to talk, face to face. Not a call, not messages, tonight." My place. He agreed, arriving with a hesitant knock at the door. I let him in, and we sat across from each other in silence for several minutes. I want you to understand something, I began, my voice steady. I'm not here to yell. I'm here to make you understand how much this hurt me. I trusted you. I considered you family. And now, I don't know if I can ever feel the same way about you again. His eyes were downcast. I know I messed up. I never wanted it to get this far. I don't know what to say anymore. Then don't say anything, I replied. Just listen, and know that from now on, things will be different. I need space. I need boundaries. And I need you to understand that our friendship, if it even survives, will never be the same. He nodded slowly, finally looking at me. I get it. I'll respect that. I'm sorry more than I can even say. We parted that night with an unspoken understanding. Our relationship had changed forever. But for the first time in weeks, I felt a glimmer of clarity. I wasn't powerless. I could decide how to heal, how to protect myself, and how to navigate this new reality. Over the following days, I focused on myself. I spent time with friends who didn't know the situation. I delved into hobbies I had neglected, and I tried to rebuild the part of myself that had been shaken to its core. It wasn't easy. There were nights when anger and sadness would come back, uninvited, but I learned that I could manage them without losing control. And slowly, I began to see a path forward, not back to what I had before, because that was gone forever, but forward toward understanding, toward reclaiming my life, toward deciding who deserved my trust and who didn't. I realized that the most important lesson wasn't about betrayal, it was about me, about knowing my worth, setting boundaries, and refusing to let the actions of others define my happiness. And even though the wounds were fresh, even though my trust had been shattered, I knew I had the power to rebuild not around them, but around myself. The days following my confrontation with Alex were some of the loneliest I'd ever experienced. Our friendship, which had been a constant in my life, was now fractured beyond recognition. I could no longer look at him the same way, and I wasn't ready to forgive, not yet, maybe not ever. Yet, life kept moving, and I had to find a way to move with it. At home, the tension with my mom was palpable. Every time I entered the kitchen, I felt the weight of unspoken words pressing down on me. She tried small gestures, making my favorite breakfast, leaving a note on the table, but I didn't respond. Not because I wanted to hurt her, but because I needed to reclaim my emotional space. I needed to breathe. One afternoon, I confronted her directly. "Mom, we need to talk," I said, my voice calm but firm. She looked up, nervous, as if she had been expecting this moment. "I understand," she replied softly, sitting down across from me. "I need to know why," I began. "Why him? Why now? How could you let this happen under my nose?" Her eyes filled with tears. I don't know. I wasn't thinking clearly. It started as a friendship, and somehow it grew into something else. I never wanted to betray you. I swear I didn't. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my emotions in check. "You broke my trust, Mom. You broke Alex's friendship with me, and you've broken the balance of our family. Do you understand that?" She nodded, silent, unable to form words that would heal the wound. I realized then that some things couldn't be fixed with apologies alone. Trust, once shattered, takes time if it ever returns. I left her room and retreated to my own space. I needed to focus on myself, to build a life that wasn't defined by their mistakes. I started small, more time with friends, exercising to clear my mind, and returning to hobbies I had abandoned. Each day, I felt a little stronger, a little more in control. But the shadow of betrayal lingered. I couldn't help but notice them together, small glances or whispers, and a pang of jealousy and hurt would spike through me. I had to remind myself why I had stepped back, to protect my heart, to reclaim my life from the chaos they had caused. Then came an unexpected moment. Alex reached out again, not with excuses, but with honesty. "I don't want to force anything. I just want you to know I regret everything and hope one day you can forgive me." I stared at the message for a long time. I didn't respond immediately. Part of me wanted to lash out, to tell him that some things could never be repaired. But another part, the part that remembered our years together, understood that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It's about letting go of the power anger has over you. Instead, I crafted a careful reply. "I don't know if I can forgive yet, but I'm working on myself. Maybe one day, we'll see where we stand." It was honest, restrained, and most importantly, it gave me control. I didn't have to decide everything immediately. I had boundaries, and I was asserting them. Over the next few weeks, life began to settle into a new rhythm. I spent more time outside the house, reconnecting with friends who had no idea what had happened. I threw myself into projects, long walks, and late-night gaming sessions, things that reminded me of who I was before this chaos. Slowly, I felt pieces of myself returning. My mom tried, too. Small gestures turned into more thoughtful actions. She gave me space, listened without defending herself, and started rebuilding a relationship slowly, without pressure. I wasn't ready to forgive fully, but I appreciated the effort. For the first time, I realized that while trust might never be the same, a semblance of respect could be rebuilt. Alex remained at a distance, respecting my boundaries. Our conversations were brief and cautious, but they existed. I realized that while our friendship might never return to its former closeness, it didn't have to end in complete hostility. Sometimes people make mistakes, and the measure of a relationship is how you navigate those mistakes, not just whether they happened. One evening, sitting alone on the balcony, I reflected on everything that had happened. Betrayal, heartbreak, anger, and disappointment had all been part of my journey, but so had resilience, clarity, and the rediscovery of myself. I understood now that the future wasn't about my mom or Alex, it was about me. My choices, my growth, my strength. And though the pain was still there, lurking beneath the surface, I felt a quiet sense of empowerment. I had survived the chaos, faced the truth, and begun to reclaim my life. I wasn't defined by their actions anymore, I was defining myself. That night, I made a promise to myself. No matter what happened with them, I would continue to grow, to set boundaries, and to protect my heart. Because in the end, the only person I could truly rely on was me. Weeks turned into months, and life slowly began to regain a sense of normalcy. Or at least a version of it I could manage. The initial shock, anger, and heartbreak had softened into a dull ache, something that reminded me of the past but didn't control my present. I still saw moments of my mom and Alex together, subtle glances or shared laughter, and each time, I felt the pang. But I no longer let it dominate my thoughts. I realized that healing wasn't about forcing forgiveness or pretending nothing had happened. It was about reclaiming my life, my emotions, and my sense of self. I spent more time with friends who had no connection to the chaos, strengthening bonds that were pure and uncomplicated. I threw myself into hobbies and work, discovering satisfaction in creating and accomplishing. One evening, my mom approached me quietly while I was reading in my room. "I know things are still tense," she said softly. "I don't expect you to forgive me quickly or maybe ever fully. I want you to know I regret hurting you. I'm here when you're ready to talk." Her words were simple, but they carried weight. I nodded, not because everything was fixed, but because I understood something essential. We could acknowledge the past without letting it define the future. As for Alex, he respected my space. I hadn't completely blocked him, but I hadn't welcomed him back fully either. When he reached out, it was always tentative, honest, and never demanding. One night, he sent me a message: "I hope you're finding peace. I truly am sorry for everything. I'll always value the years we shared, even if things can never be the same." I read it carefully, taking a deep breath before replying. "I appreciate your honesty. I'm moving forward at my own pace. Maybe someday we'll find a way to talk without pain. But for now, I'm focused on myself." And that was enough. It didn't erase the past, but it gave me agency. I was no longer reacting to their choices, I was making my own. As time passed, I began to notice changes in myself I hadn't anticipated. I was more cautious with trust, certainly, but also stronger, more resilient. I had faced betrayal from the two people I had loved and trusted the most and had survived. I wasn't defined by their actions. I was defined by how I responded to them. One afternoon, while walking through the park where Alex and I had spent so many years, I sat on a bench and reflected. The sun was warm, the air crisp, and I felt a calm I hadn't known in months. I thought of my mom, my best friend, and the pain that had once felt overwhelming. And I realized something profound. Closure wasn't about confrontation or revenge. It was about understanding, acceptance, and reclaiming my life. I didn't know what the future held for my relationships with either of them. Maybe we would rebuild some form of connection. Maybe we wouldn't. What mattered was that I had survived, learned, and grown. I had navigated a betrayal that could have destroyed me, and instead, I had emerged stronger. The experience had changed me. I was more empathetic, more discerning, and more aware of the complexities of human relationships. I understood now that people are flawed, that mistakes happen, and that love and friendship are never simple. But I also understood that I had the power to protect myself, to set boundaries, and to choose how I engaged with the world. That evening, I sat in my room writing down my thoughts. It was therapeutic, a way to untangle the mess of emotions and experiences into something I could process. I reflected on the lessons learned. Trust must be earned and respected. Boundaries are essential, and self-worth is not contingent on the actions of others. As I closed my notebook, a sense of peace settled over me. The pain hadn't vanished, but it had transformed into clarity and strength. I was ready to live my life fully, on my terms. without letting the shadows of betrayal dictate my path. And in that quiet moment, I made a silent promise to myself. No matter what happened with my mom or Alex, no matter what challenges life threw at me, I would remain steadfast, resilient, and true to who I was. Because ultimately, the only person I could rely on completely was me.